progress paper, and its title is Performance Measurement in Smart Governance, Analysis of the Digital Governance Strategy of the Federal Government of Brazil. The authors are Mariane Souza, Mariane Santiago de Souza, and myself, Daielly Mantovani. So please, Mariane, when we get the 5 last minutes, I'll let you know, okay?
Okay. Hi, my name is Mariane Santiago. I am an undergraduate student at School of Economics, Business, and Accounting at the University of São Paulo. Thank you for the opportunity of being here presenting this research in progress paper. This research intends to analyze how the Brazilian federal government is assessing the performance of its smart government initiatives. For that, these are the objectives and research questions that we are trying to answer. We looked into the primary document that is used by the government to guide the agencies and ministries, which is this digital government strategy. The first version was launched in 2016, and the second was launched in 2020. So these are the research questions that we are trying to answer with this research. First one, how is the performance of smart government initiatives being measured in the Brazilian federal government? We are also trying to answer which indicators are being used to measure this performance and how they relate to key dimensions of the smart government that were pointed in the literature. And the third question is, how does the performance measurement proposed by the strategy of the federal government assess the public value and efficiency, and which model we could propose for an improvement in the measurement of these initiatives. So moving forward. To do so, first we started with a literature review. We searched in a few databases such as Science Direct, State Journals, and Web of Science. And we used some keywords such as smart government, performance indicators, e-government, public value, etc. Then we looked into some documents that were prepared by international organizations that intend to develop set of indicators to measure the performance of these initiatives. And lastly, we looked into the digital governance strategy itself, considering this literature review. This was the first step of this research, which is still in progress. And we found some key concepts to make this research happen. The first one is the concept of smart government itself. According to literature, the smart government is an adaptive evolution of the e-government, which is digitalization of the services. And so when we speak about smart government, we are talking about something else after the digitalization, which intends to rethink the way the government works. It's something who tries really to promote a paradigm shift in the relation to the institutional objectives and organizational and cultural structures of the public government. So moving forward. To say that a government is smart, according to the literature review, we have to consider that some dimensions such as innovation, creativity, integration, effectiveness of these governments are evolving. So these are the aspects that the literature consider that is relevant to government be considered as smart. Another important concept is public value. According to Moore, it corresponds to a collective expectation that citizens have in relation to the government and the public services. So this is another concept that it is important to say that a government is smart. And here are also some key dimensions related to the public value concept. So public value is perceived if we have improved public service, improved administrative efficiency, open government, ethical behavior, and so on. To measure then performance in a smart government, we need to develop key performance indicators related to the public activity, which is something quite challenging because public value itself is somehow difficult to be estimated and therefore assessed. Continue. So for the purposes of this research, we are going to use the following typology of key performance indicators. So we classify the indicators in input, process, output, outcome, and impact. So input are related to the resources needed. Process is whether the activities in a process took place as planned. Output are indicators related to resulting from the activity, immediate results in short term. Outcomes are related with intermediate results. They are more related to objectives of an intervention, the reason why a particular action was taken, and so on. And impact indicators, they measure the results in the long term. So they are the most important to see if an action, an intervention measure is effective in the long term. The question one was how to measure performance in smart government initiatives. In Brazil, we have this in the federal government. We have these guidelines that are defined in the digital governance strategy. So this document establishes a guiding axis, strategic objectives, the initiatives, and the indicators for each one of them. And the progress can be monitored by reports that are published by the federal government. And at the end of the term, they review these documents, and if it's the case, they do the adjustments, the necessary adjustments. This is the tool that the federal government has nowadays to guide the agencies, ministries about how to implement these initiatives. To question two, which indicators are being used to measure the performance and how do they relate to the key dimensions? We analyzed this, and from 2016 to 19, there were 3 guiding axes, 4 objectives, strategic ones, 15 initiatives, and 15 indicators. And what caught our attention is that there is no input indicator in these guidelines or impact indicators. So the absence of input indicators shows that the measurements of the resources that are needed to implement these measures, this is not being assessed at all. And the impact indicator, which is the long-term results, neither are they being assessed. And this document at the end in 2019 ended with 85% of the plan of the execution. Then in 2020, a new strategy was launched, and we can see an increase in the number of initiatives and in the number of indicators. And we see that the indicators begin to focus more in outcome, which is the intermediate results, but still we have no impact indicators. We have some input indicators and processes, which shows a bit of raising the concern of the administration with the process and the resources that are being used, but still the strategy focuses on the immediate and intermediate results of the measures. Moving forward. So how does the performance measurement proposed by this strategy assess public value and efficiency? We try to relate the guiding axis of this strategy with the public value dimensions that we found in the literature. So we can see that we have guiding axes related with most of the dimensions. So it shows that it is somehow adherent with what the literature considers adequate to this kind of indicators. And moving forward, we also tried to preliminarily set a few suggestions of indicators, considering that typology that we use that as a reference. And so far, what we can say about this document, these guidelines, is that to improve it, what would be necessary is to balance each time of indicator. That way it would be possible for the government to understand and improve these initiatives according to each one of these aspects: inputs, outputs, outcomes, and especially impact, because it will
Excuse me, Mariane, 5 more minutes.
Concern. Okay, I'm finishing. This is question 4. This what we have found in this research so far. There's a lot of work to be done to understand better how the federal government is making efforts to become smarter, and also we are working on the adjustments proposed by the reviewers. That there are a few questions that raised, and in our understanding, is crucial to move forward with research related to these subjects. And of course, I'm going to project now a few questions that arise, and we would be considering these aspects to move forward to this research. For example, being smart in a post-pandemic world. Do governments have any option besides being smart? Because with COVID-19, the world has changed, probably for good. And in Brazil, the federal government was literally forced to move to a virtual model of working and delivering services from night to day. And so there was no option. So what we question now is, do the governments have any options from now on, besides being smart and try to create new solutions change the way that it works right now, and how is society going to react, Brazilian society going to react to a new paradigm in delivering public services, because many federal public institutions in Brazil actually have already implemented, for example, home working as a default, regardless of the pandemic situation. So we may expect that it's going to become standard in the federal government. So how is the perception of the public value going to behave in this scenario? Is it going to increase, or the citizens are going to feel, for instance, that the public employee is no longer necessary, no longer needed? And how is this cultural shift resulting from the pandemic affect the way the citizens trust in government and what they expect, and so on, so on. So these are some questions that we may consider in order to continue this research. And that's it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mariane.